Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lorain High School. Lorain Academic Distress Commission is currently going through a search for a CEO, and we wanted to give you all an opportunity to meet our candidates. And so at this time, I'll introduce myself. I'm Tony Richardson, Chair of the Academic Distress Commission, also a graduate of Lorain City Schools, Oberlin College, the Ohio State Law School, and I'm currently a program officer at the Nord Family Foundation.
So I'm Patty O'Brien. I am the Executive Director of the Soccer Foundation. I'm also a 1985 graduate of Lorain High, and I also graduated in 1990 from Ohio University.
Dorinda Hall, Academic Instructional Coach for the district.
John Monteleone, current Assistant Superintendent, Oberlin City Schools, and Academic Distress Member.
Hi, I'm Michelle Solis. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Inclusion at the University of Toledo.
So as a point of order, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this meeting over to Michelle, and then she's going to ask the candidates to come to the table, and it's their night. So we're going to get out of the way and let them perform. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started by describing the format of tonight's event. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Next, there'll be 2 questions posed to each of the candidates. Same question for all candidates. Again, 3 minutes available for response. And then the remainder of the forum, we want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. And so there were index cards distributed. If you raise your hand when you're ready to give those to our commission members, we will then pose those questions to the candidates. So if we could start, Dr. Thomas.
My name is Eric. My name is Eric Thomas. I am so excited to be here with you this afternoon. Not only is it a great turnout for this most important occasion, but really looking forward to the engagement that we have throughout the day. Presently, I work for the University of Virginia School Turnaround Program. I've been there for 5 years. Prior to that, I spent 18 years in Cincinnati Public Schools and a short time in Middletown City Schools, slightly south of Dayton, Ohio.
My name is Lloyd Martin. I am a graduate of Columbus South High School. I know that makes you angry. I also graduated from Ohio State University. I'm currently an educational consultant and president of a nonprofit youth-centered educational organization called Learning Points Incorporated. Former school district superintendent in Mansfield City Schools, executive director of Cated Education in Duval County, Florida. Also regional superintendent in Dayton, Ohio, and teacher, my favorite job, teacher, parent, and community member.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Henderson. I'm a nomad, and I'm looking for a home. I come to you by way of St. Louis, Missouri, but let me start a little further back. I'm a graduate of Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. From there, Prairie View A&M University in Texas, Prairie View, Texas. And I received my doctorate degree from St. John's University there in New York. I bring years of experience, at least 24 years of experience in education. I have worked as a teacher, a principal, a director of personnel in Yonkers, New York, executive director of personnel in Dallas ISD, area superintendent in the Houston Independent School District, and then an assistant superintendent for human resources back in the Dallas area, Cedar Hill ISD. I've spent the last 9 years in the St. Louis area as the deputy superintendent in Normandy School District, and the last 4 years prior to this immediate past year, in the St. Louis City Schools as the Associate Superintendent for Academic Supports and Chief Human Resource Officer. So I bring years of experience to this work, and I look forward to working with you.
Good evening. My name is David Hardy. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Academics in St. Louis, Missouri currently. I want to first thank you all for coming this evening. You could have been many places this evening, but you chose to be here with us, so thank you for being here. Thank you, Commission, for having this function, because I think it's very important to hear the voices of the community. So thank you very much for being here. As I mentioned, I am Deputy Superintendent of Academics in St. Louis for the past 3 years, overseeing 15 departments. About 200 staff members reside under me as we support the well-being of about 24,000 young people in the city of St. Louis. Prior to that, I was in Philadelphia, where there are 135,000 kids, which was a very large district in which we were looking to change lives throughout the community there. And prior to that, worked for the State Department of Education, where I oversaw 23 of the lowest performing schools in South Jersey, and we were supporting the turnaround efforts in Camden, New Jersey at the time. Prior to that, I was a principal in New York City and Brooklyn, New York, where I had a chance to see some of the best and brightest young minds get to the best places in the country as they are off to college for the first time this fall, and then began my career as a teacher in Miami-Dade, Florida, where I spent 5 years there learning how to be a great teacher and constantly learning how to get better for our young people. I would come to Lorain with a wonderful wife who's a graduate of Howard University, two wonderful little people, Christian and Luke, who were anxious to one day be Lorain students. I'm a proud graduate of Colgate University in Central New York, and also Columbia University, where I have my master's and will complete my doctorate in December.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here this evening to talk about how we can work together to restore Lorain City School District back to its rightful place. As you can see, you have wonderful graduates. You have lawyers, you have foundation leaders, and that is a result of your hard work. I bring to you my heart as a servant leader to come and assist you in finding the appropriate strategies to restore the district back to its rightful place. Currently, I am serving as a senior director of secondary education in a moderate-sized district in Delaware. I bring to you over 20 years of experience, first and foremost as a classroom teacher, doing the work that you do every day. Working with high school students, I have a master's in reading. I also taught social studies. I bring to you experience as an assistant principal in a vocational high school, where I restructured with my team the academic subjects department to bring about demonstrated success through my teachers' effort. Additionally, I bring you my experience as an elementary school principal in a small town, very similar to Lorain, with only 500 students, a one-district town, coming from the largest district in the United States, New York City Public Schools, in which I am a proud product. I understand the challenges of dealing with kids with diverse backgrounds. I embrace diversity. I lead with humility, and I understand instruction. I have had oversight of large programs, $30 million grants and restructuring programs. But I think the important part about this work is really understanding institutional knowledge and understanding the strengths that you all bring and helping me to help our children. And so I'm currently the CEO of my own consulting company, in which I've been working with low-performing school districts and schools since 2000. I bring to you my commitment that I will work most earnestly to ensure that we all provide for the students we serve the same things we want for our biological children. Because you know what? Education is a 21st century civil rights issue, and we want for our children what we should provide for everyone's children. And so I bring to you that commitment, that if I am selected, I will work collaboratively with you to ensure that we identify the appropriate core strategies to restore this district to its rightful place. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. One thing that we know for certain is community engagement is absolutely key to the success of public education. And so I'd like each of you to address, again, 3-minute limit. In your presumed role as CEO, what plans do you have to engage the Lorain community? Dr. Thomas?
You know, I think I would start off with echoing really just the importance of this concept of engagement. In the work that I do, we work with school districts across the country in helping them transform their organizations, their school districts, to support the needs of their students. And one thing that we constantly recognize and constantly push forward, that the challenge of transformation, the challenge of change is absolutely too great to attempt to do it alone. So the concept of collaboration, the concept of partnerships, the concept of pulling everyone together and creating that synergy, I think is absolutely the utmost. As a part of my 90-day entry plan, quite honestly, that would be the center of that 90-day entry plan. Parents, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and let me really just go ahead and say this. There's a commission, there's a school board, there will be a CEO, there will be a superintendent. It's going to be absolutely critical whether no matter who of this panel ultimately becomes the CEO of this district. It will be absolutely pivotal for that group to become a group, to become partners in the work. I'm a firm believer that this is not about the adults, this is about kids. And if you keep kids at the center and kind of push away the adult pieces, the political pieces, the power pieces, and all of those sort of things, and if you keep kids at the center, that's the only way that this is going to work. I haven't had an opportunity to meet with the commission. I'll have that opportunity in the morning, and one of the first conversations that I hope to have is what is their vision in partnering with the school board, in partnering with the community, and partnering with the CEO. Because if that's not going to be a partnership, then again, the challenge is too great for that not to be a partnership. I think probably another person that needs to be a part of that conversation is the present superintendent. There's been a lot of conversation about sort of his role and what that may or may not look like. Obviously, I have not met Jeff. One of the things that I would want to do very quickly is have a very honest and intimate conversation with the goal of figuring out what are our skills, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and how can we synergize to become a really strong partnership. Because again, the work is absolutely too difficult to try to do it alone.
Thank you. Dr. Martin?
Again, thank you for this opportunity. The framework of the work I do is about children. They are at the very center of everything we do. I have 3 objectives immediately. First, to increase academic achievement, to operate efficiently and effectively with the resources we have, and finally, to restore hope, trust, and confidence in this district to return some of the students who have left back into this community. In order to do so, it's required that I meet with everyone. So therefore, I will be engaging on a listening tour, coming to the communities, listening and trying to determine what types of schools do you want to have. It is not for me to come and overlay my vision, my direction on you. My goal is to make sure that I am able to achieve the things that you want for your children, for you to be able to articulate that, to build collaborative bridges with all aspects of the community, because there should be no child left behind. There should be no student that is not able to be successful coming from the Lorain City School District. I believe that we have to be about the business of increasing reading scores, because you understand that if you cannot read, you certainly cannot lead. So reading has to be a fundamental component of a plan. How do we not only engage students, but how do we build professional learning communities so that we can truly become a learning organization? An organization where we can build trust and share best practice with each other without fear of ramifications or repercussions. How do we work with the broader community to get them actively involved? How do we give the ownership of the schools back to the people whose students are in those schools? How do we open up the doorways and classrooms where instructional practices can be demonstrated for all to learn? So therefore, I come here with the task of being about the business of one thing: improving academic achievement by any means necessary. And that means to me, building partnerships, collaborative partnerships with colleges, universities, internships, expanding advanced placement opportunities for all kids of diversity and of poverty. Because a kid should not be limited by their zip code, who their parents are, where they live. They should have equal access to education every single day. So I commit to providing a high-quality education to every child, every day, in every classroom, and to work with every teacher every day in every learning space to make sure that this community operates in the way that I know it can, because for you to be here tonight reflects that there is a core in this community that wants much better. That is not to say that the people who are currently in place, they have to be engaged, because they bring the history of the organization, and they bring the commitment that we need to move this organization forward. Thank you.
Engage me for a moment. Take a look around. Look at each other. Just engage me, just for a moment. I'm not going to ask you to hug your neighbor, kiss your neighbor, shake their hands. I just want you to look around. We're talking about community engagement. Are we engaged? Are we engaging the whole community? Under my leadership, there will be standing room only moving forward as we gauge the community, gauging students, engaging parents, teachers, administrators, the ministerial alliances, elected and appointed officials, external and internal individuals. We will engage the entire community. That is the only way we can make progress in this area of engagement, and that is to engage each and every individual within the community so we can move forward academically, operationally, and financially. We have work to do, and it is obvious that you want to be a part of that work. And I look forward to working with you to get that work done.
Questions for you. You didn't think you were going to come here and take a quiz, did you? 3 questions. Raise your hand if you remember your least favorite teacher. Least favorite teacher. Okay? I see smiles and some frowns. Okay, I understand. Raise your hand if you remember your most favorite teacher. Of the 2 teachers, who would you call right now? You don't have to answer out loud, right? Because your favorite teacher probably did something very special for you. They probably opened up learning in a way that you didn't imagine before. They may have even woke you up on some of the days that you didn't want to come to school. They might even sparked an interest in you that no one else had. The biggest piece they probably also did was engage you in learning and engage your classmates in learning in a way that made you feel comfortable and made you feel like you could be the best person every single day that you could be. I think of community engagement the very same way. If we're actually going to make strides and continue to grow this community and continue to make it great, we have to come together. I've been a part of and seen firsthand where communities have been told that there was change coming and they were never spoken to. People came into their buildings, people made demands, people told them what was going to happen and didn't engage them in actually what was happening. I think that's completely unfair. It would be unfair for me, coming from St. Louis, Missouri, where I am a Cardinals fan. I'm sorry, I see a gentleman in the Indians hat, I'm sorry. My red is a little bit different, I apologize. And for me to come in and say, this is the way we are now going to operate. I think the most important thing that I can do is ask you, how should we operate? Too often, we come in and say, this is what we're going to do to the community, rather what we're going to do with the community. And for us to actually make that change, we all need to sit around a table, whether it's a coffee shop or a conference room, and have those tough conversations. And granted, I think at some moments we're not always going to agree. And I think that's the beauty of it. We can't always agree on the same things, but we can come to an agreement at the end of the day, what is in the best interest of kids. And I'll ask you this last question around what you think makes a great school. And I'm going to ask, is it a great teacher or a great community? So if you raise your hand and say it's a great community is what makes a school, raise your hand if you agree with that notion. If you agree that it takes great teachers to make a great school, raise your hand. And what's not surprising is that it takes both. And all of us in here have had a great teacher and know the importance of a great community to make that happen. And I hope that together we can all raise our hands and say that we made a better Lorain City Public Schools.
Thank you. How will I engage the community? First of all, I would start with understanding that the strength of this community lies in all of the stakeholders, right? And so in my background, my strengths that I bring is I understand how to put the structures in place based on research to bring the community together. Authentic collaboration. It starts with convening stakeholders so that we can establish core values. What are our core values in this community? Our core values will lead us into our actions and our practices. That's the first and foremost thing. I've got to get at healing this organization. There's some organizational trauma going on in this organization. And we've got to get to that root cause of that trauma and pull people back into the fold. And so one thing you can expect, of course, put together my 90-day entry plan, and that involves listening, going around and establishing opportunities, town hall meetings with different stakeholder, listening sessions with teachers, visits to classrooms, meeting with key business community members, community-based organizations, faith-based community, public servants, listening and gathering data from that listening, learning by looking at the data and having those conversations and getting into schools, into classrooms, speaking to students, and then leading, convening groups. We're going to convene. We have 90 days to develop a plan. Now that's going to be a collaborative plan because I can't own the history of this organization. I can't do this work without authentic collaboration. And so what you can expect from me in terms of community engagement is clear, concise communication. You can expect from me humility. You can expect from me the ability to go with the best idea, even if it's not my idea. There's an existing group of people here that are working, that are doing the work. My frame of mind is that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And that's why you have to use the past to transform the future. Sankofa. Is anyone familiar with the Sankofa? It is an African proverb. And it's a bird looking back because the past informs us about what we need to do in the future. I don't want to come and make a decision about something that you already had an experience with and not understand your response to that. So that piece is critically important. The other part of the conversation goes with identifying a research-based parent and community involvement model. Joyce Epstein's model is a viable model. Establishing structures, meaning that there are standing times that exist that we come together as a community, whether it's a standing advisory council with teachers or listening sessions, whether it's a legislative breakfast on a specific day, there has to be structures that are in place, just like PLC time. Those structures have to be put in place, and then we have to come together and we have to do that work. I believe ultimately that there's a place for everyone in this organization, the current leaders that are here, and any additional people that join this community. And so I plan on engaging this community by being clear in my communication, concise and consistent. You can expect that from me. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you that after this next question, it's your opportunity to pose questions via your index cards, and the commission members will pick those up from you. So our last question before we kick off the question and answer session is, please take a moment, or 3 minutes, to share your vision for Lorain City Schools. Dr. Thomas?
Vision. I think the comments to my left really highlight that in the state of Ohio, there's this concept called the Ohio Improvement Process, the OIP. And the OIP was established to create coalitions at the district level, DLTs, at the building level, BLTs, at the teacher level, TBTs. What the Ohio Improvement Process does not do is bring in a broader community. As a part of the Distress Commission protocol, there's actually a requirement that within 90 days to gather a group of stakeholders to become sort of the advisors to this work. I don't really like the word advisor because I think everyone can contribute. So this concept, again, of collaboration, this concept of moving toward a vision, in my mind, it really can't be Eric's vision. I think it has to be a collaborative vision in which everyone owns. In regards to several things that really sort of hit me in the heart and are really sort of dear to me, I'll give an example of a school district in Shreveport, Louisiana, Caddo Parish. Had an opportunity to work with them for 3 years. And when we walked into working with them, meeting with the superintendent and his senior cabinet team, there was a transformation that was needed. In fact, it's very similar to a situation here. They were one step away from having the state intervene. So they had one opportunity to get it right. Otherwise, the state was going to intervene. During our 3-year partnership, they became one of the most successful districts in the state of Louisiana. I remember watching kids in year 1, and you saw them, and sometimes you look at kids as they get a little bit older, sort of the frown starts to come, the smile starts to disappear. For them, it was the exact opposite. The kids understood that the adults anchored them. So for me, I want to see our kids appreciate and understand that everything that happens is for me. A second thing that's dear to my heart, there's an opportunity that Lorain has to really become the destination in Northern Ohio. There's an opportunity in which, whether it's to the east, whether it's to the west, the surrounding communities, we have an opportunity to look at innovative practices, creative practices, and collectively put forward a plan in which people across the state, across the Midwest, and quite honestly across the nation will see what it was and what it became. And most importantly, not only will that give our kids an opportunity to be special, but it will give other kids an opportunity to be special as well, because the adults surrounding Lorain will come and see. And they can take those practices back and have an impact on their district. So for me, those are the things that are important to me. It's really about not only saving the lives of the students here in Lorain, but it's really about impacting lives throughout our country.
The vision I hold for this community is simple. Students must learn and achieve at high levels. We have a diverse community with a growing population of students that are not being successful. So we have to be intentional about identifying how do we make those students successful? How do we close the achievement gap? So I can envision a day where every student in the district would have an individualized learning plan, where they are each being met where they are through differentiated instruction. I can envision a day where no kid is behind because no one knows where they are. We have to wait for the assessments to come back before we can intervene. I envision a day where formative assessments are a part of the norm and not something unusual. I envision a day when teachers can ask the teacher next door, how did they go about working with this child? And they can honestly hear what they're saying and implement those things collectively through the instructional coaches that are in this district. I envision a day where we have differentiated instruction for the adult teachers who need help. Oftentimes, we sit here and say what you need to do, but we fail to work with you on how you do it. So we have to move beyond the rhetoric to the action. I envision a day where in our career technical education, we're offering biomedical sciences, where we're recruiting our high achieving students into those, where we're building Spanish classes and conversational Spanish for everyone in the district, because this community is increasingly becoming a Latino-based community. How do we build those bridges? It's not by saying it's my way and no other way. I envision a day where we have high quality CTE, where we can recruit the best and the brightest into those types of career techs, and they're not skewed through socioeconomics. I envision a day where we have equal access for every kid in education. These things are important. When we have kids failing to the point that they can't pass the third grade reading guarantee, that means to me we have to do a better job of working with existing preschools and helping those folks who have the kids in daycare begin to build a foundation for kindergarten readiness, where every community aspect is engaged in educating the children. It does truly take a whole village to educate a child. And the time has now come for this village to come together with one common focus: to save the children. Today's children are our destiny. So when we fail them now, we fail our destinies. Thank you.
My vision is to hear your vision so that we will have a shared vision. It will not just be my vision. The vision I foresee will be an international, known as an international district. It is doable. After all, this is the international city. I see, and I had this conversation with one of the audience member, a vision of bringing back CTE. You see, everyone is not going to go to college. So we have to have other career paths. We're not all going to college. So CTE must be present. First, what's most important, I vision that we identify the best, brightest, and cooperative teachers and train them. As I shared with the commission this morning, we have to feed the teachers. If not, they will eat the students. So let's feed our teachers. Let's professionally develop our teachers. And when you professionally develop your teachers, they will in turn not eat our children and provide a path for our children.
It doesn't help that I didn't have lunch today. So he sparked some interest. But so I will say this, and I've had the pleasure to know Dr. Henderson for some time and completely understand where he's coming from. But I have a slight nuance to my vision for Lorain and for the students here in Lorain. I actually do envision a place where we are sending more and more of our kids off to college. And we're sending more and more kids off to experience what they believe is their true north. I say that because it's hard for me, as sitting up here, I've had the opportunity to have two wonderful parents that made sure that their two sons made it off to Ivy League schools. It would be very hard for me to stand in front of a child and say that college isn't for you. I think that is a decision that is made by a young person. That is a decision that we give our kids the option, the choice, the belief, whatever they do is possible in their own minds and hearts. But it's up to them. And our job as adults is to give them a platform to do whatever is necessary for them to be successful, for them to unlock their full potential. Last May, I received a phone call very similar to this conversation we're having right now. I had a phone call sitting in a meeting in central office, and I got a phone call from a New York number. And it was about the time of year when signing day was happening and kids were getting acceptance letters, and I hadn't seen this number in some time. So I walked out of the meeting and took the call, and on the other line was Brianna. Brianna is a daughter of a single mother and has a younger sister who looks up to her like no other, right? So it's like Kyrie to LeBron. Brianna called and said, Mr. Hardy, I had just been accepted into Georgetown University. For this young lady, from where she began to get to where she is now, it says a lot about the hard work that she committed to get to where she is. It says a lot about the parents that were surrounding her, to supporting her to get to where she was. And lucky for me, I was part of her path. I was part of her way to realizing that Georgetown was part of her destiny. It was part of her direction. It was part of her reaching the next level of expectations for herself. Now, granted, if Brianna didn't go to college, that would be great as well, because Brianna is going to do whatever she can to be successful. But at the same time, it was up to her to find her destiny, and had great leaders to help her get there. Because we think about this now, and this, just for a second, think about this. We live in a world where we no longer have to go to the library to get a computer. We can just take it out of our pocket. We live in a world where 60% of the jobs that our kindergartners will one day take are not even in existence. 60% of them. So think about what we need to do to prepare our young people to realize their full potential. Our job isn't to walk them down one path. Our job is to expose them to many, to allow them to explore, to think and create places where they can figure out where they will be ultimately very successful. So I say that in summary too, my vision is to ensure that we're creating learning environments as a community to ensure that our kids realize their full potential.
And just to interject here, because I heard, if you recall W.E.B. and Booker T?
Yes.
You remember the poem?
Yes.
So this is W.E.B., I'm Booker T. And please let it be known, I do envision kids going to college. But we must realize that everybody will not go to college, and we have to provide a path for those kids.
And that's why it's important we have the 3 E's. I call them 3 E's. Every kid should be prepared for enlistment, enrollment, or employment.
Very good.
I like that. Thank you. So, gentlemen, I thank you for that engaging debate. So, let's talk about vision. A good vision starts with a theory of action. The theory of action drives our practices, right? And so, I bring to you a theory of action that will help us build up the foundation to what our vision will be. I'm going to share with you my theory of action. A theory of action is a set of beliefs about how to achieve strategic goals. Within the context of continuous improvement models, it codifies beliefs about how children learn and creates levers that drive adult behaviors. It serves as a meaningful and impactful manner, building momentum for success. My personal theory of action is love to the second power, or excellence through equity for everyone. This will help Lorain City School District stay the course relative to the goals identified by all the stakeholders in this community, the Academic Distress Commission. It will help leaders operationalize an established and shared purpose. It will break down silos, ensuring inclusion for all, fostering partnerships that enable us to sustain positive results by strengthening data-driven decision-making, honoring the work and institutional knowledge that offers merit, while embracing the rich diversity of our students, families, teachers, and administrators. Now, I'm not going to go on and on, but within my vision, we should embrace diversity, build capacity, and foster partnerships. We can't talk about the 6,650 students in Lorain School District without bringing a face to each and every one of them. We can't talk about building authentic collaboration and developing effective teams without knowing who we all are around the table. And so when I speak to excellence through equity for all, that means all. That means teachers get what they need. That means students get what they need. Administrators get what they need. Parents get what they need. That is the only way, the only path to excellence. And equity doesn't mean taking something from one group and giving it to another. It means giving each person what they need. If you are having a heart attack, I'm not coming to give you the Heimlich maneuver. I'm coming to perform CPR on you. And I think we get the conversation about equity misconstrued. And we think about, oh, they're going to take the stuff away from the wealthy kids and give it to the poor kids. We're going to give everyone what they need to be successful. That is equity. So I bring to you my theory of action. When we establish our core values as a community, we will craft our vision. But I assure you that embracing diversity, building capacity, and fostering partnerships will be a pivotal part of the development of that vision. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I want you to know that we do have some duplicate questions, so you may not hear your specific question, but I will do my best to cover each and every topic. In addition, some people wrote specific questions to specific candidates. There will be time afterwards to mingle with the candidates, and you can ask your question of them individually. Dr. Thomas, the first question is for you. The Lorain NAACP is concerned about the low percentage of Black teachers. A large percentage of our students are brown. What's your view on this problem?
First of all, I would not necessarily call that a problem. I think the problem is students not learning. There's a body of research that suggests the shade of skin of the teacher has an impact on student outcomes. There's another body of research that dispels that. There is no conclusive conversation around whether the race of the teacher impacts the student achievement of the students that they serve. There's a little bit of everything. For me, I think the most important thing is to get a high-quality teacher in every classroom. I've had wonderful teachers as a kid who were white, who were Black. As a building principal, I had some of the best teachers in the world, and they were all shades. In the work that we do now, our conversation is about how do we identify fantastic teachers, how do we recruit them, how do we select them, how do we develop them, how do we retain them. We generally don't get into a conversation about the skin color, because again, there's a body of research that you can make an argument on both sides of that. For me, it really is about, let's make sure we have a high quality teacher in every single classroom so that every student is getting a quality education.
Thank you. Dr. Martin, can you please provide a specific example of your work with a diverse community, for example, the Latino community?
When I worked in Duval County Schools, I was charged with removing or supporting the work to get 6 failing schools in the district off the failure list. The superintendent called me to his office with this required opportunity. So we engaged the NAACP, the local organizations, the parents, the principals, and provided intensive and focused professional development. The schools that we addressed were diverse in terms of Latino, African American, and poor, because each socioeconomics is also a diversity. So therefore, what we did that year was able to get all those schools off the failing list. We engaged parents, we visited homes, we made contact, we created individualized plans for students to help them close the achievement gap. And in that year, that was the first and only time I left at the end of that year, for us to have no failing schools in Duval County. So when it comes to working with diversity, and part of our company with Universal School Solutions, We provide professional development for teachers on how to teach students with different diverse cultures, races, and socioeconomic levels, because there are different strategies that need to be met in order to meet the needs of individual students. I do agree with Dr. Thomas in as much as the important thing is not the color of the kid or the color of the teacher, because that argument is fallacious at best. Because we have to know that because a teacher is not African American does not mean they cannot be effective teaching African American children. We have to know that you cannot assume because you are the same race or same racial group that you're going to be somehow able to connect with that child, because relationships are not built on race alone, but on caring. Kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Thank you. Dr. Henderson, you can't engage or communicate with a parent who doesn't show up. How will you specifically get parents involved?
So very true. So I'm not going to sit here and wait on them to show up. I'm going to go to them. That is absolutely paramount, is that we get out of our building, our office, our schools, and go into the homes, have conversations, gain the trust of the parents. Once we gain the trust, can you hear me? Yes. Once we gain that trust, and you're breaking down barriers, when you gain the trust of parents, of the community, and then there's a two-way dialogue.
Thank you. Mr. Hardy, can you please give a specific example of an innovative project used to improve the academics of your district?
Sure. So this past year, we were attempting to address the appetite of our young people to experience learning outside of the classroom. We were trying to figure out how we can start a district-wide initiative to engage kids in a different way beyond what state mandates we have and the rote curricular pieces that seem to always be in front of our kids on a worksheet, in a classroom, and a desk. So we started an initiative called a Love of Learning initiative. And what that initiative did was basically we created opportunities for kids to engage in specific projects that they competed against other members throughout the district. We had 4 branches of it, one of which was focused on STEM or STEAM initiatives, actually. So we had a science fair where we engaged our students with creating projects to actually figure out how to advance the world of STEAM. We had another project that engaged students through Knowledge Bowl and the more traditional learning of things that they have either seen on pop culture or throughout TV, and had a competition across the district in that area. We also spent some time thinking a lot about how we engage kids through problem solving and critical thinking, and use chess as a vehicle to do that, and had chess and other opportunities for kids to engage in learning in that realm. And the 4th area of Love of Learning, which I thought was very interesting for St. Louis Public Schools, where we engaged in a social justice challenge. And the task was for teams of 5 or 6 students at a school to create a solution to one of the 3 big problems we have in St. Louis: homelessness, food disparities, where a lot of our students are living where there's food disparities and food deserts. And then if they were to redesign a school, what would it look like? So these teams of 5 to 6 students engaged in this activity at their school sites, and we had over 62 applications to actually finalize their actual project. And out of the 62, we had 5 finalists that actually presented their project, and they had a chance to go to, we have a new space called our tech shop, and they built renderings of their project, whether it was how they were going to solve homelessness, how they were going to end food disparities, or how they were going to redesign a school. And they spent about 2 weeks with professionals in creating these templates. And if you look in the St. Louis American, you'll see images of our kids working through this. Then we had one group of students from Farragut Elementary who actually won. If you could imagine Shark Tank just to another level, you saw these wonderful creators of innovation design a space where they wanted to recreate the teacher's lounge so that, and teachers, I don't know if they agreed with that, but they redesigned and recreated the teacher's lounge to make it a space where they could calm down, where when they are frustrated, when they come to school frustrated, there was a space for them to relax. And for fifth grade minds, I thought that was very, very interesting. The good news is they wanted to share it with their teachers. They wanted a space where their teachers and students could come together and actually come together outside of the classroom. So they built this rendering, and lo and behold, it was put in the paper. We received multiple funders who wanted to fund the project. And so the entire space was gutted, new furniture was brought in, it was painted. Eventually, our state representative saw this story, and he took the winning team to Jefferson City, to the Capitol building, for them to share their project. At the back end of this was a group of students that were a part of an inclusion classroom. So here was an opportunity where we think our best and brightest create the best and brightest ideas. And for whatever reason, this, we write off the others, right? But here was an instance where our kids, when given the opportunity to realize their potential, they did. And this was the initiative that started it.
Hence, CTE.
Thank you. Dr. Katie, how will you work with the city and community to address the growing concerns and issues regarding drugs and poverty, since many of our students are being born to drug-addicted parents with medical issues and learning disabilities as a result, are coming to school unprepared?
Thank you. Working with the city and the community to deal with some of the social problems in the community. So, be really transparent with you because I don't know any other way to be, right? I am a product of foster care in group homes. My mother suffered from mental illness. My father was a heroin addict. We work together by providing integrated services to families. There's a wonderful program that is in the Ohio area in Boston, and it's coming to Wilmington, Delaware, called City Connects. And what it does is it takes partnerships between agencies, and they share data to provide services to kids. I looked at the research in this, I looked at some of the findings in this report from the Ohio Office of Accountability, and they talked about our elementary school teachers speaking to the fact that there are no social workers or counselors in our elementary schools. That's problematic. When we're in communities where we're looking at the mean average income in Lorain being $35,000 a year, 27% of our population is living below the poverty level. 91% of our kids are economically disadvantaged. We've got to plan for this by bringing in strategic partners so that our teachers don't have to be the counselor, the social worker. We can remove those barriers so that our teachers can actually teach. And so training around trauma-informed care, restorative practices are critical pieces and components to counteracting some of this discipline data that we're seeing, because these kids are dealing with trauma. We don't want our teachers to be traumatized too. Okay, so let me go back. How am I going to deal with the city and the community? We'll go back to what I always say. We're going to put those structures in place to foster those strategic partnerships and to look at our issues and, one, provide the training to our staff, align the resources efficiently to ensure that the resources are aligned to our needs. Get some counselors in those elementary schools. Let's start with that, okay? Amen. We're going to work with them collaboratively and openly. You have various partnerships I've looked in, and the work that your current superintendent has embarked on is wonderful work. We're going to build on these things. Once again, I stated, we're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You guys have the institutional knowledge. I need you. We have to do this together. But we have to start by getting to the root causes of some of these issues that we're grappling with so that we can remove the barriers and focus on learning.
Thank you. Before I allow the candidates to give a closing statement, I would like to invite all of you to join our reception of meeting our candidates. And I'd like to, on behalf of the commission, thank everybody for coming out tonight, and we look forward to working with you. So Dr. Thomas, would you like to start by offering a 2-minute closing statement?
2 minutes.
2 minutes now.
Again, as we started, I think it's absolutely exciting that the crowd that we have here this evening, it says something about what you want out of your district. I had an opportunity to visit Lorain 3 years ago. In fact, I was on the review team that wrote the first district review team for the Ohio Department of Ed. Over the past 3 years, what has always been constant, it was constant in 2014, and it's clearly constant, is that this community wants a fantastic school district. That's one thing that's never changed. You've had various superintendents, you've had teachers come and go, but one thing that's been constant, this community wants a fantastic school district. And I think that's powerful. I close with 3 points. In the present work that I do, I work for an organization that's been in existence for 15 years. We're recognized as the most effective school transformation program in the country. We've worked with districts across the country. We've worked with districts very large. We've also worked with districts very small. My role in that organization is to help the superintendent and his or her senior cabinet create systems and structures to redesign their organization to ensure that the conditions are in place so that students can learn. Having had some familiarity with Lorain, I think that's what Lorain needs. I think it's a little bit more than improving 3rd grade math. It's a little bit more than improving 8th grade science. It's a little bit more than raising a graduation rate a point or two. There's 600 districts in the state of Ohio, a little over 600. And no matter where we stand on House Bill 70, no matter where we stand on the Ohio Department of Ed, no matter where we stand with this whole concept of the Distress Commission, under the present protocols, we have a challenge and an opportunity. I look forward to the opportunity to work with you, to take a hold of what's going on in this district, look at every piece of the district, and reform those pieces that need to be adjusted, so that there's a level of synergy. Looking at talent management, looking at the instructional infrastructure, looking at the relationship between the district and schools, and looking at leadership at all levels. Those are the 4 components that drive my work. As a senior level administrator in Cincinnati, it's the same work we did there. I'm proud that in 5 years, we went from an F school district to a B school district. For 2 consecutive years, Cincinnati Public Schools was the highest urban achieving school district in the state of Ohio, and I was a part of that work.
First of all, I want to thank you for giving us your undivided attention tonight. But I tell you, in terms of transforming schools, I've done the work. I've been a superintendent of a school district. I've turned around failing schools. I've turned around failing middle schools, high schools, worked with students throughout the nation. And the same is the result. We get positive outcomes for students. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about what the inputs are. It's about what the outcomes are. Are students learning? And I ask people on occasion, would you rather have a highly qualified teacher, one that's well-degreed, or would you rather have a highly effective teacher? Someone who is meeting the learning needs of the students who are in that classroom. I've done the work. I've turned around failing schools. And the bottom line at the end of the day is we have to be innovative in the way we go about this work. We have to be inclusive. We have to be intentional, thoughtful, intentional, and purposeful about how do we meet the learning needs of our disabled learners. They cannot be left behind because they are also important. Because when you graduate or you grow up, they don't have special education house notes. They don't have special education rent. They have rent, and you have to be prepared to pay it. So every student that attends school, regardless of their disability, must have equal access to a high-quality education. I've done the work. And yes, we don't have to be exclusively focused on third grade literacy, but we know that K-3, you learn to read. 3 on, you read to learn. So if I fail to teach you how to read, if I fail to teach you how to count, if I fail to have a safe learning environment, if I fail to frequently monitor student progress, if I fail to provide a rigorous, relevant, meaningful academic curriculum, I fail. If I fail to make sure that students come to school through connecting, if I fail to put in processes and plans that keep students in school instead of on the street, I fail the school district. I fail the children. We fail the parents. And you know, unfortunately, we only have so many resources. So we have to be strategic in how we allocate those resources. And that's why we can't go about fixing pieces. We have to look at the entire system and go at it from a systems perspective. How does this affect that? What are causalities? Why are kids absent? Then I can begin to address issues around non-academic barriers that get in the way of learning. The important thing to know is that each one of us, you are important. But you need to remember that you are Lorain City Schools. And each and every one of you is important. But remember, you all rise or fall together. Thank you and have a good night.
First, I would like to say thank you to each of you for coming out this evening. And in my early days, immediately out of college, I was a news reporter. So I talked all the time. I don't do that anymore because I became an HR director. So I listen. So that's what I do now. I listen, and I listen, and I listen. You see, I'm a verb. V-E-R-B is the heartbeat in every language. But what I really am, I'm an action individual. Very little talking, but all action. That's who I am. In the Houston Independent School District, the largest school district in the state of Texas, I had the North Acres Homes District. About 16,000 students, 21 schools, $104 million. The lowest of the 12 sub-districts, we had the lowest social economic. Free and reduced lunch, about 99%. 75% African American, 25% Hispanic. I have you to know, during my years of service there, and it's still happening, maybe not as high, but it's still happening. Of the 12 sub-districts, consistently, our district, with 99% free and reduced lunch, ladies and gentlemen, outperform the other districts. And that was the only district that was 100% minority. So it matters not the pigmentation of your skin. Kids can and will learn as long as we're doing what we need to do to ensure that they are learning. As I stated earlier, if you don't feed your teachers, they will eat the kids. So we're not going to allow that to happen here in Lorain. We're going to professionally develop our teachers so that we will see the success that we're dreaming of, so that we'll see the international district of choice right here in Lorain. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. I'll start with just 2 quick vignettes, one of which, when I finished my conversation or had a chance to speak to the commission, I walked downstairs to engage a wonderful high school student of Lorain City. She was sitting in the main office and she was working, and I just asked her, you know, so what is it about Lorain that you love? The first thing that came out of her mouth was the people. The people of this city. This was a young lady who it wasn't prompted, she didn't know who I was and why I was here, but she said the people. I then asked her, what is it that you want to do in life? She said, I want to go off to be a physical therapist, and I want to see the world. And I said, that's fantastic. How are you going to do it? And then she went on to describe a situation of how she plans to go off and see and go out of Lorain and then come back to her community because she cares so deeply. And what that showed me was this level of pride. Pride in the city, pride in the school, and pride in making this community as great as it can be, starting with our young people. The second, after I left the building, I actually just went for a walk because I wanted to see the city a little bit, and I ended up walking my way to Burger King. And on my way to Burger King, because I was hungry, and on my way to Burger King, as I was walking down, I guess towards West 23rd Street, I was walking down and I saw a group of kids, they were outside playing. And one of them asked me, are you the president? I said, no, not the president. And a little nervous that obviously I'm encountering kids that don't know me, but they're asking me questions. I said, is that something you would want to do one day? And he said, only if I can change the world. I say that because here are young people in this city who want to find a way to change the world. And here's a room of community members who want to do the same for our kids. So why not have more conversations like this to make that happen? So I end with the notion that see this as a beginning of a conversation, not the end.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank the commission for setting up this opportunity for us to all get together this evening to start the conversation. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank my peers, all very accomplished candidates, for sharing the dais with me and sharing your ideas and bringing your synergy to this work. And your commitment and dedication over the years is the reason why you sit here today. And so I thank you for those contributions. I want to thank each of you who came out this evening to meet us, for taking your time, for giving us that consideration. I bring you an extensive history of leading change, and with humility, most importantly. I bring 17 years of research and practice to this work. My dissertation research is rooted in restructuring through interagency partnerships, ensuring that we keep humility at the center of what we do. I bring you service. I bring you my service, that I give you my commitment that I will serve. My professional experiences, my strong character and core values of resiliency, integrity, compassion, and empathy. Over 20 years of service in the trenches as a teacher, a curriculum writer, a parent and community involvement specialist, an assistant principal, a district office administrator, a CEO of my own consultant firm. I bring you that. I bring you consensus building across schools, across departments, around common goals, exceptional interpersonal skills, effective human relations and evaluation systems, and including supervision of central office staff and my own staff as a principal, and my own consultants or strategists is what I call them. Experience in budget and operation with millions of dollars, local, state, and federal funding, oversight over Title I, Title II, Title III, and Perkins and 509. Leadership that recognizes humility and a commitment to continuous improvement for myself and those I serve. Experience in the execution of strategic planning and goal setting, an extensive experience with program development and contract negotiations with teacher unions in particular. The ability to recognize talent and the ability to yield to the best idea even when it's not mine. I bring you highly developed listening skills in a quest for fierce resolve of problems, equitable and expeditiously, effective use of data to arrive at instructional decisions and programmatic needs, visionary leadership that brings ideas to fruition by capitalizing on the spirit of collaboration, understanding of state code and federal guidelines, including IDA and ESSA, experience presenting and working with boards, and working as the superintendent's designee, a short learning curve. My educational experiences, I've earned 4 advanced degrees, including a doctorate in restructuring low-performing schools through interagency partnerships. My personal experiences, my commitment to ensuring excellence through equity for every student and adult. My hopes and aspirations that there is a pervasive belief that we will accept that all the children in our community deserve what our biological children deserve. My personal journey, which demonstrates transformational power, the transformational power of education for those most vulnerable children we serve, who are impacted by the social ills of greater society. If I made it through, then I know that the impossible is possible for every child. I will embrace diversity, build capacity, and foster partnerships with you. I thank you for your time.
Thanks everyone again for coming. The last order of business is there are feedback forms. The commission wants your input. There's extra forms over here. You can either leave those forms face down on our table or hand those to a commission member. Thank you, and we hope you'll stay for the reception.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.